Well met, lords and ladies, Jacob Butter speaking, and a warm, wet, hour. Welcome to this week's Walking Wednesday. That's the important thing. Okay, so I'm out here again, and this was the time I was supposed to say that the deadlines are finished and I was now going to be on purely a Walking Wednesday and Atmos stream upload basis for I don't know how long. But no, that's not quite the case yet. I've still got one more day of Pixel Month to work through, and then after that, I'm done with new uploads new renders or stuff for a while. Then obviously it'll become that. Then afterwards, I was going to say, well, I've already forgotten. I haven't been recording a minute yet, and I've already forgotten what I was going to say. Oh yeah, no, then I have like one other extra deadline that I forgot to factor in. Fortunately, I was already halfway through the actual thing that I was supposed to be handing in, but that's neither here nor there. So I'm going to have to be doing that. And then afterwards, I don't know. At the same time, I've kind of come up with a lot of ideas for the Butter Bunch as well. Because the next What If Ranit's and Nappa Turn Good has been in the workings for some time. By which I mean I have the video and a quarter-finished editing project of it. Not gonna lie, I have to get through a bunch of comments for that. I feel like I'm going to do like a separate section of video or separate video going forward for that series, because it's getting to be a little unrealistic. Hold on, I have to cross. There's a couple with a dog. Again. And more cars. Hooray, they all appear as soon as I've started. Like, I'm recording this at around, like, I don't know, past 6, almost 7, I can't remember actually. And basically, I thought that from what people said, there wouldn't be that many people around. But no, it's about the same as usual, cars and all. In fact, actually, I'm going to get a shot of the one that's just coming, because I'm sure that my brother will appreciate that. I'm going to walk backwards, because I'm going this way. There you go. Anywho, so while I'm doing that, I'll probably, at the same time, to keep myself in the writing zone, I'll probably go into writing What If Goku and Married Tsuno Part 2, because that one, if you people don't know, has actually been on a poll basis, well, not a poll basis, but purely on comments. That's going to be, not to say it's purely on comments developed, no, because I've got plenty of ideas as well. In fact, I dreamt of one idea last night actually. That's usually how it works. A lot of these what ifs actually come to me in dreams, which is fascinating, of course. Now, well, point is, there's a lot to consider. That's what I have planned. So probably for the Butter Bunch, I'll do a couple of things every now and then. Like, basically for Butter Bunch, because of the way that YouTube works, I used to like really worry about getting a video out every 2 weeks, because that's, as soon as your channel's been inactive for 2 weeks, it kind of gets taken out of the YouTube algorithm and stuff. But yeah, recently enough, the Butter Bunch has been doing really well. Like, we hit 250, I think, last week, and last time I checked a few days ago, it was 263. So, again, doing much better than the regular channel is. And once again, in pure regular channel fashion, the less variety things I upload, the more people seem to be subscribing. I mean, Pixel Month this year has been much slower than before. Like, last year was when I started to gain a lot of traction that I hadn't seen up until that point. To the point where, I mean, I was only just around 400, I think, when that first started. And I finished off at 500. I think it's still my largest growing month in terms of viewership. But that may actually be down to Gacha voice acting instead. I did kind of briefly go over this a bit quite a long time ago. In fact, around the time this happened, actually. And basically, I determined it to, it was definitely partly the Gacha voice acting. Because those videos did get quite a significant amount of views, and there was when Gacha voice acting was starting to be on the rise. Even before the Music Freaks came out, actually. And I just kind of went from there. I think maybe, I was going to say, the Music Freaks did come out in April, but it was late April, so even then that wasn't really even saying much. So I can't even attribute it to that. So yeah, needless to say, I think that might have been it. Perhaps I should start doing more public auditions again. But even then, that's not entirely that possible because a lot of the auditions have now moved onto servers and stuff, and people have sort of caught on with the fact that half of the stuff that gets produced isn't actually going to even be made at all. Or like half the stuff that gets casted is what I mean to say. So sort of the new buzz around Gacha voice acting has died down, which I suppose officially makes it so that I was there before and after it was a thing. Well, I mean, not after it was a thing, it's still a thing, obviously. I mean, just after the hype was around, is what I meant to say. Which I always thought would happen, but in terms of the internet, you never realise how fast that is. I mean, granted, it was a good year before like anything voice acting really happened around me. I say around me because I know there are a couple of series that I've since discovered, or in fact the one by Midori Stories that I seem to remember the pilot episode of, but nothing else afterwards, which was interesting because Midori Stories was actually one of the first people to do like almost every single role himself. I mean, he hired a different female voice actor for almost everything, but from what I remember from that particular project, he seemed to be doing all the male voices himself, which was certainly interesting. It's what Aiden would have preferred I did, actually, in all honesty. I mean, I'm still quite surprised that I managed to really cast the Mutant girl the way that I did. Not just because it wasn't like the way that Gacha voice acting is done now, where people will actually come to you specifically for voice acting rather than, just getting your friends to do it. But also because the parts were so many at that time that I really started to even though I gave people multiple roles and stuff, I didn't think I was going to be able to really fill everything. Like, it took forever to find someone who was willing to voice Reina, actually. The second lead female, for crying out loud. One of the main trio. I mean, and that was partly because I actually asked Nasib originally if she was going to do it, because obviously Natasha and Nasib back at that point were the two people that I discussed Gacha with exclusively. Like I've said before, they're the ones that got me into it. They're the ones that kind of showed me what it was all about. Kind of the first few videos. And actually, hold that thought. I'm just going to see there. They were doing this boot camp thing a couple of days ago while I was here. And I think a few people way in the background over there that seem to still be doing the same thing. It's not the same group. Definitely not, but I know there seems to be some sort of training thing going on. I'm not entirely sure. And yeah, this is more what I was expecting. Absolutely no one around, except for the one gentleman in front of me that I'm not going to frame. So yeah, like I said, Nasib and Natasha, they were definitely some of the choices. I mean, Natasha wasn't even the first choice in Morwenna. I tried to get some of my real life friends who I knew liked acting, like Sophie, for example, who hadn't acted anything in quite some time and was feeling quite left out. In fact, dare I say that she still hasn't acted anything afterwards. I'm not sure. I'll have to check with her, see what her last performance was in anything. But yeah, honestly, that didn't work out. She said no. And then also I looked into Phoenix Dominite and she said no as well. Because that would have been a huge return to form if I managed to cast her as the lead role. Considering that she was definitely like the data agonist in a lot of stuff that I used to do back in the day. Including the original Teartha Wood. And we still even use the same skin model that she created for that. Which was still on Nova Skin and Skindex to this very day. Along with Lolly Diamondite, the Infection Spread series, which apparently was not made by her. That's a whole other thing. Anyway, I went to Natasha and Nasib because the reason I didn't want to cast them initially, from what I remember, was because I wanted them to experience the series firsthand and not know what was going to happen necessarily. So, because that's what they would do with me. They would show me the videos that they'd made. Well, actually, they'd ask me if I'd seen the videos in question first of all, and then they would show them to me when I said no. And I was subscribed to both of them, and I still am. But the problem is, if they're going to show me the videos anyway, I might as well wait to watch them with them, and that's what I did. So I was going to do the same thing with those two. I was going to show them the Music Girl once it had first happened. In fact, for a while, I wasn't going to tell them it was going to be voice acted or animated in any form. But yeah, that of course changed quite significantly because it turns out that those two were the most willing. In the end, it makes sense, obviously, because I mean, if they're the ones that are into gacha in the first place, they might as well want to be in the gacha, right? In fact, that's where the whole Pop and Empress thing came in, because they were Nasib's characters, and she wanted to have them put in there. Although I say that could have been slightly after. That could have been because I said yes to them because Nasib said no to voicing Reina. So yeah, I'll rephrase that. Natasha was quite willing, but for some reason, as soon as I asked Nasib, she didn't give me a reason, she just said no, which I wasn't expecting. So yeah, the only way that she would actually be in the series is if I actually had Pop and Empress in there. And I needed some bully characters, so I definitely put them in there. And I would have cut some of the roles like Kylie and Terry if I'd had to. But because of that, I didn't. I was going to say, the one actor friend that I was able to cast in this series was Beanie Boy. Because, yeah, he and I went to the same drama club. He'd been in a project of mine before, a live-action short film, which he's since asked me to basically put on unlisted, which I'm still not really quite happy with, but I acquiesced anyway. And that was for a short film competition. So I worked with him before and stuff, and he was obviously getting into YouTube, and we talked about YouTube before. This is around the time that the truth about Travis was becoming a thing. And we essentially talked about that, and he was there for an episode, and then it turns out that he actually went off to do his studies, barely responded, and that was what kind of caused some of the production issues in the first place. So weirdly enough, casting the one actor friend that I had that was willing to do it, actually cost me more than I'd originally thought. Hold on a second. Just gonna speed through here. Right, there we go. Sorry, that was the person there. He was obviously quite concerned about coming up to me in an alleyway, so I eventually just there. He was kind of hesitating, but he just kept on walking forward. Now there's a road in front of us, so what's even the issue here? I'm not sure. I don't know. It's one of those things. I'm glad to see that some people are still concerned about COVID and the way that it's coming about, because that's not entirely usual anymore, really. People seem to have just adjusted and mainly pushed it aside. So yeah, anyway, it was a tough call to really cast the original show, and it was only once I started going that it actually started to get people who came in specifically for voice acting, like Emma, for example, or Dylan, who then replaced Beady Boy in one of his characters, and has only recently told me 2 years afterwards that I've been spelling his name wrong for some time in meme format, so thanks for that one. And then Caroline as well was new to me around this time, but I didn't cast her until way later because she was kind of brought in to eventually voice Agatha by Shiny, who was the one person who had access to the script at the time for it, and for season 2, that is. And that was obviously had to wait for some time because we weren't going to be producing that for a while. It's like now we have the season 3 script prepared, and we're not going to be able to make that for some time either, because season 2 is taking so long. Which reminds me, I must speak to Quadzi and William and see if I can get some of their stuff as well, because I don't want season 2 to become a 2-year project. Because season 2 has already was started before the 1-year anniversary, so that should tell you how long it's been in the process. And to be fair, Through Her Eyes delayed that kind of thing quite a bit, but at the same time, I don't think it would have made too much of a difference, honestly. I still would have had to cast everyone for this next episode regardless, just to end up with a set of different people. And that brings me back to what I was saying. Basically, what I was getting at was the fact that a bunch of people, after the series started, once it was it being kicked off, were either recruited by others in the cast itself, once they knew it was a more lasting thing, or found the series and then became voice actors in it later. Hold on, Carl. So yeah, moral of that story, to everyone who's worried about what happens nowadays in gacha voice acting, where it ends up becoming much more about how active the voice acting Discord server is, rather than how good the voice actors are, or how much the series ends up doing. I saw Red Redemption, one of the first things that I got into, that I still haven't voiced in yet because my character has not appeared, or has been cancelled, I don't remember. And that was a lot. That had a lot of server updates, mostly inane stuff. It had trailers, it had promotion for this thing that hadn't even come out yet. It had concept art, it had a bunch of OC designs, and all that's great. But when you're focusing on that instead of the actual product itself, you end up with almost nothing. You end up with an unfinished project that you never come back to, and you end up regretting. This isn't just Red Redemption, this is a lot of things, actually. Which is why I'm grateful for stuff like Glamwit Academy as well, which incidentally I've actually finally sent in lines for 4 episodes down the line, but at least I did. This is happening. Because Glamwit struck a balance. Like at first there was a lot of stuff on the servers trying to get people involved or whatever, but now all I get is the voice actor pings, like saying, oh yeah, we're going to work on the next episode now, saying the lines, you know, that kind of thing. And that's all you need, because Glamwit started off and it took off. Yes, it has a lot of the visuals and stuff, but I don't remember a Glamwit trailer or anything. I just remember the series happening. And I think that's the point. Like, I know that Glamwit focuses a lot on visuals and production, and I have critiqued the story of the first episode quite significantly. And I'm sure I'm going to do that for the second and third once I actually finally get around to seeing them. Again, after I have my break. But the point is, it's there. The Mutant Girl is there. And it has been there for quite some time. And it was there, and it came before these other things because I didn't hesitate, because I knew, well, A, because there was no standard back then, so I mean, I didn't know what I was supposed to do and not to, but I could have waited to find out, but I didn't want to. And if I had waited, it wouldn't have turned out the way that it did. So that's why I start all these things as quickly as I can, because I want to see if they'll work. I don't want to wonder whether they work. I want to see if they work, that kind of thing. So, yeah, moral of that is, I get a lot of people telling me they want to do shows and stuff. Like yesterday, for example, someone said to me, I've got a bunch of shows and I haven't thought of them. Well, I haven't started working on them. Well, no time like the present. I mean, a year on and we're still in quarantine, so what else do you want to do? You might as well, basically. Because yeah, it's the same when I used to write a lot of books, which I kind of stopped now because of the shows, but I still do them a couple of times, occasionally. It comes down to that. I didn't wait until the story kind of like fleshed out, because if I had, then I probably wouldn't have written them at all, because of the way that, you know, I work now, all the scripts that I'm doing. So you never know. I mean, life can happen and take you places, but you know, there's a lot of things that you can do to kind of control that. And I know that I don't strike the best balance between that, but possibly someone else might. Maybe someone like Rosie Clossie, for example, or Midori Stories, who I mentioned before, who again was doing stuff before there was the standard to do it. You know, the first like animated gacha thing that I saw was from 2018. That was Not Your Average Girl, and he's continued to up himself ever since. That sounds terrible. That was a pretty poor phrasing. You know what I'm saying. So yeah, in the time-honored words of Shia LaBeouf, do it. Just do it. And please leave a like or dislike, because your opinion matters. Subscribe if you have not done so already, because one thing that I would also like to do sooner rather than later is hit 1K, but we'll get there. But with your help, of course. So on that note, until next time, good luck with whatever shows you have out there, and farewell.